What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Nerdwide podcast. This is episode 136. I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, and with my good friend and good friend and co-host, Mr. Chris Rivers. I'm just going to run straight into your name and just be done with it, you know.
Why not?
Listen, how was your Thanksgiving week?
It was good except for Friday because I had to work. So
Yeah.
it kind of interrupted the weekend.
It just, like we were talking about before the show, it just feels like one long week. And we both worked Friday. I worked from home, but it was still work. And it's just such a long week.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's over and back to normalcy, though. So
You're in a job that they can't really shut down.
No, we don't. 'Cause if we shut down, then something's really wrong.
So I at least understand, your workplace being open.
Right.
But mine, there wasn't really any reason to.
Stuff like that doesn't make much sense to me, you know.
I mean, we made $1 for somebody else. But...
Yeah, always for somebody else, never for you guys. Yeah. Listen, we've got a big episode. We've got the mid-season Invincible finale. We've got 4 episodes of the Santa Clauses to talk about and catch up on.
Mm-hmm.
We're finally, almost in December, ranking our Halloween list. And we've got a lot of news to catch up on that, we've talked about between ourselves, but not on the show, and especially with some new details that came out this week. So there's just a lot of fun things to talk about. Have you been watching anything TV-wise? Anything new?
I'm still working on my Friends binge. I'm midway through season 4.
Oh, I love it. Just the one where those such are good episodes. I started the Wheel of Time at work. Not very well because the Wi-Fi is just terrible unless I'm watching Netflix, and it's just the weirdest thing. I don't know why one player works better than the other player. So I've just been kind of dabbling in that a little bit. It's been a weird week, so I haven't really watched much of anything. Movie-wise, didn't even watch anything there either. Just it's been one of those weird weeks. A lot of football, a lot of basketball. Of course, the Grizzlies are playing right now, which 3-12, but we'll get there. Yeah. It's a long season. It's one of those things. Can't be any worse than the Pirates.
They won on Friendsgiving, and
that's all that matters. And we had a fun time that night. So,
we did.
Listen, I've got to tell you, the story of you and Justin doing really, really well during the Best Friends game was talked about all Thanksgiving long, or with me and Corbin. That is just nonsense, okay? And I can't stand it, and it's whatever.
I have no explanation for that.
Just makes no sense, man. Anyways, let's get right into it. First show we're going to talk about Invincible Season 2, Episode 4, titled It's Been a While. Man, the animation on this show has been stepped up immensely from the first season. And trying to spot all the voice actors is a lot of fun. And just this episode is just great overall. But we're going to the ReviewGeek.com by Noah Petrillo. Let's see. All right. So episode 4 of season 2 opens by filling in the gap of Nolan's departure from Earth. He wandered about the cosmos as nearly drifted into a black hole, but instead he rescued a few Thraxans about to suffer the same fate. He stands before Mark again, as we saw at the end of the last episode. Mark is relieved but ultimately unhappy to see his father, staying only to help the Thraxans. Nolan has a new wife named Andressa, played by Rhea Seehorn, and a new child with her as well. So I asked Jamie this while I was watching it, because I just recently rewatched the season 1. I thought the Viltrumites could not breathe in space.
Sounds familiar.
And so, the beginning of the episode, he just kept floating through the Cosmere and stuff like that, or the cosmos, and I was like, what? I don't understand that, but, suspended disbelief. Him having a new child was hilarious in this episode. But I do feel like we were talking about this last night too, I thought they were just cussing just to cuss in this one. It was a little extreme, more so than usual. Every other line was F this or something like that. But is also a teenager going through his grief and stuff like that. Same with Adam Eve was doing the same thing. So
Yeah, I mean, I didn't notice it that much because I have, my own potty mouth. Um, but one of the ones that caught my attention was when he first finds out. I guess it's when he first finds out about his baby brother, and they're about to cut to the credits, the opening.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Mother," and normally, if I'm remembering this right, normally when they come back, they just skip the rest.
Right.
Right. But this time he finishes it right after that opening sequence.
The opening sequence is always the name. Like, it's in place of them saying Invincible, but this time it was not in place of Invincible. It just did that. I was a little caught off guard by that. So I was like, Mother, Invincible. No, that doesn't work. I mean, so it was kind of a weird one to do. And something that really ticks me off, though, is we still don't have a confirmation of when the show's coming back. All we know is 2024. Not early 24, not anything. It's just 2024.
It's doing well, too, which is normally they would be out there saying, hey, get these episodes, and then this is when we'll see you again. So it's strange. I don't know what's going on at Amazon.
That's you can't really blame the strike on it because, I mean, they've already been done.
Yeah, unless they did find that they had some stuff they wanted to touch up, so they're not.
Just kind of push it off a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
But still, they could give us a time frame.
Yeah, and give us, just say early. I mean, let me know I can look forward to it. I mean, I don't want to watch 4 episodes, then wait till the fall of next year to watch the last half of the season. That's just not how you sustain your fans. Debbie visits Nolan's fake grave by walking barefoot across the entire city. The Mauler, half burned and scarred, creates another clone. Donald, his clone, really, finds his glasses across the street from the... I forgot their names. Across the street where he died. We flash to Nolan asking Mark to help him save his new family from the Viltrumites. They arrive before Mark can decide what to do. He was going to train him because they thought they had plenty of time. Obviously did not. We see Eve going through some issues. She rematches against Kilcannon in the original teen San Francisco Bridge hideout, which is an awesome spot for that, by the way. I really like that. Andressa explains to Mark that she only lives 1 human year as the Thraxans do, and she had no intention of trying to replace anyone, nonetheless Debbie. Mark faces off against Lucan, a Viltrumite, with Nolan saving him for Mark's being still too weak, which we find out why. This episode of why he's still too weak against these Viltrumites, which I thought was really cool, and I didn't even think about it. I just always thought he was weaker because he's not as old and kind of stuff like that. Eve's fight with Kilcannon does not go as expected. Eve causes collateral damage with a couple falling off the bridge. I'm pretty sure they died, and we do know they kind of die at the end. Let's see. Art comes to Debbie's house and helps her see to the strength in herself, which they kind of did a little future spoiler for this episode in it, because she's in the box that she's got on the couch. It has got a bunch of books, and I was like, those are like Nolan on the cover of the books, and then comes back to it sure was. Let's see. So Donald watches the surveillance footage of his death, finally realizing he is a clone. Mark and Nolan fight the 2 Viltrumites. Nolan tells Mark that he has to fight to kill in order to unlock his great potential. Mark, fueled by anger at the death of so many innocent Thraxans, unlocks more speed in his power. Just when it seems they've won, Lucan returns, smashes Nolan's back. The Viltrumites take Lucan and Nolan away while giving them medical attention. The fight scenes was so cool. The old Viltrumite with the braided hair that turned into a knife at the end was so cool. I really, really, really like that aspect. You don't see that much. No. But she just stabs Mark straight through the gut. I was like, oh my god. Yes, he did hesitate. And obviously you cannot do that against Viltrumites. But then Nolan getting his back just obliterated. I was like, oh no, he's done. But no, we can find out they can even get cut across the gut and all their guts spilling out and they still live. Which, Viltrumites, just completely OP. And
well, that guy ended up dying though, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't know if he's dead. We know that
Because he's passed out.
Yeah, he just so we really don't know what happened to this guy, Lucan.
But he was literally holding his.
Yeah, he was holding his guts the whole time when he came in. I was like, good for you, man. Very cool fight scene. I really liked seeing Nolan and Mark team up again. And I understand why Mark was so pissed off against his dad during this whole scene. Because you left Earth and you should have felt the way you did about the Thraxans, about the Earthlings. And he was like, no, this is messed up. You've got to do better than this. And it's almost like his dad kind of came around to it, but then that old Nolan was still in there. Like, I was like, no, you have to kill if you want this to work. And then what else I want to say about this whole scene? I think that was it.
Do we know how much time passed?
No, we know a couple of months because he graduates and then he's off at college. So we know for sure like a couple of months.
Because if the what's the name of the race on the planet?
Thraxans.
Thraxans. We know that they only live 1 human year.
Right.
So he couldn't have been gone that long from Earth. I mean, the opening made it seem like he was in space for months.
Mm-hmm.
Just floating around, and then he had to have time to get assimilated into the Thraxan culture.
And, make a baby, pop that baby out.
But the gestation cycle has to be pretty quick.
Right, I can go a couple days.
And the kid's already about to talk, so
right.
Like, I was watching it and I was trying to figure out, okay, she's about to die.
Mm-hmm.
Because they only live 1 year. We don't know how long the kid's going to live. Is he going to get longevity from the Viltrumite side of his land? He doesn't look like a bug, so he got that from his father.
It's pretty cool seeing how like he's purple, but he's still humanoid.
Yeah,
and not like Thraxan-ish and everything. This is kind of cool there.
He was like a little eggplant.
Yeah, a little eggplant. She was getting the eggplant. Anyways, Eve reluctantly returns home on a bus, not using her powers. Donald contemplates suicide in the bathroom. I don't think that's what it was. He cuts himself and discovers that while he can bleed, which he was very relieved of, he is at least somewhat superhuman, confirming that he's a clone. I don't know how it confirms he's a clone. I'm thinking more robot.
Yeah.
Personally. Because like he stabs himself, and he looks at the knife and it's bent. So I'm like, he's maybe like a titanium
android.
Yeah, android of some sort. Which I don't know why Cecil wouldn't tell him about this, but
see, I was like you. I was kind of going along with it at first, thinking it was a clone because it's like, okay, how many Donalds have there been?
Right. That's exactly what my question is.
There's probably a long. You know,
just like the Maulers.
One of these long rooms, just with a bunch of Donalds waiting to be called on.
Boot one of them up. Viltrumite General Craig tells Mark and that Nolan will be executed for his crime. Craig also intends to force Mark to make Earth part of their empire in Nolan's place, taking up his job. King Mauler intends to build an army of clones, but is killed by the other Mauler. Which I knew that was coming. I mean,
yeah.
And then they're just gonna make. I like how we've got all these stories going on, but there's always the Maulers just doing their stuff. It's like I don't understand that, but it's always doing their thing.
I like what they're doing with Eve too.
Yes.
I feel like superhero shows and films don't address enough the real fallout of all these big battles that they have. It's like, well, all that stuff got destroyed. You know.
Right.
There's cleanup, there's rebuilding. I could see how, if it were reality, society would get tired of that.
Mm-hmm. Real quickly.
Like, dude, we're always having to clean up y'all's messes.
Mm-hmm. Taxpayer money is going straight to that.
Right.
Ain't nobody mess with all that. But that's it. That's the first half of season 4 of Invincible. I just want more, man. I just want more. That's how it always is. And I am going to I'm going to get the first trade paperback of Invincible, which is just like I think the first 5 issues or 6 issues. They've got it like $11 on Amazon, and instead of doing the omnibus, just doing the giant trade paperbacks and putting it back on the shelf back here. But I think what I'm going to do is stay caught up to the show, like not read ahead, as hard as that's going to be, but just not read ahead of it, to see, because there are differences in it, and obviously they're gonna stay a little bit longer on high school Mark, I would assume, right? Because we've gone for a whole 8-episode season, yeah, on a college Mark. So I mean, I'm curious to see how we do with that. But we also found out Mark was gone for a week though between last episode and this episode. So
yeah,
poor Debbie. But all right, let's do it. Santa Clauses, season 2, episode 1.
So, real quick with Invincible, we don't know when it's coming back.
Nope.
But where do you think it's going? Because, like you were saying, neither of us have read these. So,
oh, okay. So we still have Sterling Brown's character, Angstrom, which wasn't even touched on, talked about, or anything this episode. He's obviously like our big bad. I don't know how Mark gets back to the planet. I assume he probably uses the spaceship that he came in on, because even Nolan said you can't fly that far. It's hundreds of thousands of miles away.
And he's very bad with navigation.
Yes, and he's very bad with navigation. He's always had the problem. I don't know where. He's obviously going to come home and be very defeated. He's going to want to save his dad because he's going to have that part of his upbringing and attachment to him. And he's obviously not going to conquer the earth. So I don't know. Does he tell Cecil about everything? Does he even go to him with that information? Does he tell Debbie? Does he tell Adam Eve? I don't know how that works. But we also know that Cecil is working on a weapon to take down the Viltrumites.
Right.
So I don't know. He's got to get to Earth somehow. I do for sure think he does that, and then potentially goes to the Viltrum. But
he's got to. They're also checking in on him, and they've said if we see that you're not doing what we need you to do, we're just going to wipe out everyone on Earth.
Right. They say you could take out a couple to make them fall in line, or we're going to come and kill millions. So it's a good point.
I think Eve obviously will be there to help him. That'll get her back to where she's like, no, I can use my powers. For
when she was trying to find and talk to Mark too, but obviously was not there to talk to because she doesn't have anybody to talk to, really.
No. Do you think his mom gets caught in the crossfire?
Ooh, I could see
Whatever's
that.
going on.
Yeah. I could see that somehow. Like, Nolan inadvertently kills her somehow, maybe, or
he just can't get there to save her in time.
Yeah. Or he watches her die or something like that. And that's really going to set him off. It kills all the Viltrumites. But man, that one little supposed kill on Lucan, where he just just cut the dude's stomach wide open.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing. I was like, God, that's awesome. And just shows you how strong he is. Their skin's not impervious, It's not Superman.
Right.
Which, I miss that stuff. But I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting. I really don't want to wait. Like, I'm okay with February. I think that's a good enough time to come back. Now, whether they do or not, I can see March, April coming around potentially, but that's still 4 months away, and I don't think that's any way to do your shows.
Have we gotten the boys announced yet?
So not the date. Oh, so that's right. They're gonna have to play off of that too.
Yeah.
It's curious.
I would think they would want to do, like you said, February for this, finish it up, then maybe drop the boys in April or May.
Right. And right after that. Oh, see, that makes a lot more sense. Because they've got, what other shows they have? The Lord of the Rings thing, which I think it's still filming or just got done filming. Because they could still film because they were overseas and not part of the union. So,
yeah,
that certain group. I'm not sure. But that makes sense. I forgot about the boys coming back too. Because they're done. They just need to do it. Which we're not going to get anything, I don't think. If we don't, we'll have to get it in the first couple of weeks of December before everyone takes holiday break.
Yeah.
Because after like the second week, we don't get anything. We don't get any news until January. So we'll see. But before then, to get us into the Christmassy spirit, the Santa Clauses Season 2, Episode 1, titled The Cribble Crabble Claus. We're going to showsnob.com by Jennifer Rinson for this recap and breakdown. Let's see. All right. After learning that being Santa Claus can be passed down to an heir, Santa immediately wants Cal to take over the family business. Cal really isn't cut out to be the next Santa as of yet. He struggles with the whole sleigh flying in the sky bit and wants to make honestly terrible changes and seems to focus more on his time and energy on being with his girlfriend Riley, who has not been dusted. Due to that, Santa worries about her blabbing to everyone she knows about the truth behind the Santa in the North Pole. Riley, like Cal, seems just as amazed and impressed by everything she sees, so surely she won't tell anyone about her boyfriend's dad as the real Santa Claus. While Cal is busy being a boyfriend, Sandra becomes tasked with taking care of all the animals on the North Pole, including the reindeer. The role sounds great to her at first until she realizes that the gift of talking to and hearing all the animals talk is becoming a curse. Add to it, Santa wants to improve the elves, which is pretty much the elf security team of the North Pole, when Mrs. Claus suggests she takes over the operation. We're getting a big family vibe. We're making this a family business, so everyone's got their new roles in the whole thing. Now, the whole season so far has kind of annoyed me because the elves are hiding stuff still and causing all these issues. We'll get into it more as we go, but think about that because it really annoyed me. Now, the Mad Santa has been some of the best that this show's done.
Yeah.
Everything else is just very annoying to me.
When Mad Santa came on the first time, I was like, sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But I couldn't place it, so I looked it up, and it's Eric Stone Street.
Yep. Modern Family, which they did a great job with his makeup because I don't recognize him at all. And just the voice alone was what did it.
And I know that we'll get there. He has a gnome with him.
Yeah.
Not an elf, but a gnome. Not a fan of the...
A little over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's...
They've got it's a young girl. Of course, most of the elves and stuff are played by child actors or early teenage actors. But they have her doing this voice that... Just why?
Yeah, it didn't really fit.
No, I'm not a fan of the voice.
Just to try to distinguish it between the gnomes and the elves, and it's just not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
It's distracting more than anything.
Yeah, and especially that character is very, I don't know, big unibrow and giant ears and everything. Now more than ever, Betty, the head elf, worries about the state of the North Pole. However, having the reputation of being the stick in the mud will help her escape her duties of attending her obligatory Cribble Crabble. This is mandatory for head elves to attend, sounding like a retreat where they can improve on their skills and duties in a relaxing setting. She asks if Santa can make an exception so she does not have to attend, but getting to remove the head elf for at least a little while, Santa refuses the request. In Betty's stead, her husband Noel will take over as head elf, even though he's terrified to do so. Although Betty asks that Santa doesn't make any big changes while she's gone, he does so immediately anyway, announcing the moment she's gone that Cal will be the next Santa. As New Year's Eve approaches, Mrs. Claus decides to speak with Gary, the elf in charge of the ELFS, where she hopes she can move the division towards a new direction. Her attempts to quell Santa's worries on New Year's Eve about Cal losing focus on becoming the next Santa don't work. What they don't realize is that Sandra's powers might be progressing as she's able to emit an energy blast the moment she loses her cool over all the animals constantly talking, which would get annoying. But the biggest surprise is what will undoubtedly be the plot of this season is Magnus Attis, aka Mad Santa. In the opening of the episode, we see that several hundred years ago, Magnus Addis was Santa, but resided in Europe. When humans started taking the magic, he became an angry and violent Santa who fled and established the North Pole, but upon his defeat, he was punished to reside within a wooden nutcracker. This was the only time Christmas was threatened. When Noel realizes that Mad Santa Nutcracker is missing, he panics, but Gregory assures that nothing can happen unless someone uses North Pole magic to free him. Although the elves refuse to inform Santa about the Mad Santa, again, this is very annoying. This is stuff that Santa, your boss, needs to know. Let's just be honest.
Right.
Which is a lot of problems throughout all movies in the show. Or the elves. The problems will soon become unavoidable. Down on Earth, Chris is struggling, played by Iglesias. Gabriel Iglesias. Hilarious, by the way. I really like. He is very good and very convincing in this role. Down on Earth, Chris is struggling to keep the family business, a North Pole theme park, afloat. Although he believes in Christmas magic probably more than most, his father wants to shut it down. Chris tries to reveal to his father how real Santa is by showing the snow globe he and Minnie received that Christmas. The snow globe contains the owner's most precious and favorite Christmas memory, but the magic will only last a week. Conveniently, when Chris shows it to his father, it doesn't work anymore. The snow globe is accidentally dropped and broken right next to a wooden nutcracker Chris brought from a merchant in Norway. Lo and behold, the magic from the snow globe touches the wooden nutcracker, and Mad Santa is freed.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Episode 2, titled Floofy. We're staying with showsnob.com and Jennifer Renson, by the way. Santa Claus decides to make it known at his meeting with the elves that Cal will begin his training to become the next Santa. His wife, Mrs. Claus, will begin an investigation into the missing nutcracker and the missing page from a Santa Historical Records book. Again, why are the elves doing this? Why? As we recall, Noel ripped out the page about Magnus Attis and burned it in the fireplace. Unfortunately for Santa, the other holiday figureheads are aware of his intentions and aren't pleased, even though they promise not to meddle in each other's legendary businesses. Cupid, as the messenger, explains that Cal will have 3 months to prove that he's ready. Otherwise, the holiday figureheads will intervene. Cal, who is ever so excited to be the next Santa, struggles with the first round of trading. But his supportive girlfriend, Riley, is there to cheer him on, much to Santa's dismay. As far as first loves go, Cal and Riley already share the same nickname for each other, Floofy, which is the title of this episode. While Santa trains Cal, Sandra struggles with her new powers and visits La Befana, the Italian witch who delivers gifts to children on Epiphany Eve. Sandra is able to use her powers when she's angry, leading La Befana to believe she may be a witch. Considering she and Cal are the first children born in the North Pole, there are endless possibilities. I don't think she's just a witch. There's something else obviously going on here, and I do think both of the kids are going to team up and be the next Santas.
Yeah.
Which, because they've separated, they're both wonky, but combined they're fine. So
yeah.
Considering she and Cal, we already said that. She, however, won't train Sandra unless she tells her parents. La Befana wants to keep a good relationship with Santa. Sandra attempts to ask her parents about hanging out with La Befana without addressing the reason as to why. Though miscommunication and her teenage frustrations seem to cause more harm than good. Frankly, neither Santa nor Mrs. Claus know how to deal with a teenage daughter, but by the end of the episode, Sandra and Santa are able to communicate, where she shares that she may be a witch and her father reminds her how much he loves her no matter what. It's become very apparent to both the Santa and Mrs. Claus that the elves have been acting differently ever since the wooden nutcracker and Magnus Attis were mentioned. What Santa can't figure out is why he'd never heard of Magnus Attis before. It doesn't take long for Mrs. Claus to figure out that Gary, previous head of the ELFS, both isn't good at his job and has been hiding evidence of the missing nutcracker. They've been talking a lot. Considering this is a family-friendly show, Gary most likely not face legal consequences for his actions. True. More about Magnus Attis comes to light, where the elves reveal that he was a Santa residing in Europe, hated how humans were misusing the magic, which caused him to flee to the North Pole, the plethora of magical creatures. Added to Magnus Attis began listening to the gnomes instead of to the elves. The elves nervously exclude the whole Mad Santa bit, although it was when Magnus Attis was in charge that Noel and Betty met for the first time. Things were getting so bad that Noel had suggested to Betty that they leave, but we still know how the elves were able to stop Mad Santa and the gnomes that we saw in the first episode. Speaking of Mad Santa, he's been palling around with Chris and learning about the current human world. Although Chris is oblivious to Magnus's Attis's threats and abrasive behavior, he is shaken up by Olga, a gnome who is trapped in the with a nutcracker as well. She wants to destroy the human world and seek revenge, while Magnus Attis wants to relax, let everything go, and move on. While that is until he notices how unappreciative people, especially children, are. Let's be honest here, this is a tale as good as time when it comes to Christmas movies and television. Yes, times change, people change, the world changes, but that doesn't mean every person or child, for that matter, are selfish and unable to see the bigger picture. The final straw for Mad Santa is when he learns that the gifts he's been handing out to the park guests have been tossed into the trash. He is now ready to seek revenge, starting with taking back the North Pole. Granted, he was giving everybody's figs and nuts. I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's just not gonna be appreciated.
No.
I do like you have the legendary creatures. In this one, we got Cupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how Cal's girlfriend Riley is playing peekaboo with him, and he just giggles like a little baby.
She said, "I'm a cute little baby." "I'm not a baby. Stop it." Peekaboo. It's so good. Episode 3, titled "No Magic at the Dinner Table." Ever since Sandra learned she could be a witch, she's been training with La Befana. Feeling left out, Mrs. Claus worries that she's going to lose her bond with her daughter. Her worries seem to overlap with her duties with the ELFS, which leads to a solution: invite La Befana over for dinner. Naturally, the night of the dinner, Santa is nowhere to be seen. I don't know what the world's going on outside that door. As Sandra, La Befana, and even Cal show off what they can do, Mrs. Claus becomes upset as she has no magical abilities at all. Her sudden outburst at dinner causes both children to leave the table, allowing Mrs. Claus to connect with La Befana. She reassures Mrs. Claus that she will never replace her. She's only the teacher, and a day will come when she is no longer needed. However, a mother will always be needed. Although Sandra is showing great progress with her magic, La Befana refuses to teach her the transformation spell, which is considered to be a very advanced spell. In the meantime, Santa is focusing all his efforts on training Cal, who still cannot overcome his fear of heights. I'm very... right there with you, buddy. Not even in the very bad simulation where they're in the chairs. Well, it cracked me up. He said, "Do I need to put training wheels on your chair?" It was so good.
He just fell over.
Yeah, just went straight back, pulled the elves with him and everything.
The elves did not look happy.
No, they were very upset the whole time.
Like reindeer.
Cal becomes frustrated. Go ahead.
They already don't like Cal being Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And now they're having to pretend to be reindeer.
It was a very, not behaving, but just very degrading to the elves here.
Yeah.
Which I can understand why they're keeping their secrets now. So
demeaning.
Yeah, demeaning. That's the word I was looking for.
There you go.
Cal becomes frustrated, worried that he won't be able to take the helm, and thus upset and disappointed in his father. He vents his frustrations to Sandra, who points out that as much as Cal seems happy to be the next Santa, he's really doing this for everyone else. So that's what I'm saying. He's not. They're gonna do it together. Cal can't help but stress on not only his current failures, but his relationship with Riley, whom he wants to write a love letter or poem to for her birthday. After the dinner debacle, Cal retreats to where letters to Santa arrive, where Santa received a confusingly threatening letter that was sent from Mad Santa. Very good scene, especially watching this with Stella, because it showed how all of our letters come to the North Pole and everything. That was very good. Yeah. After Cal and his father have a wonderful heart-to-heart over some root beer floats, Cal brings to Sandra about their conversation. Brags to Sandra. The Elf nightclub / bar, awesome. I mean, that is a themed bar. It would be a lot of fun to go to.
Yeah.
Cal believes Sandra to be jealous of his role, but she isn't. The two have a petty argument about whether the word hair or air is correct when the Easter Bunny arrives free from his brief captivity with Mad Santa. We'll cover that in a minute. It says he needs to talk to Santa Claus about Mad Santa when Sandra's powers cause her to turn the Easter Bunny into a live bunny. She successfully performed the transformation spell without even using the spell book. Worried, La Befana believes they need to slow down, which angers her. The two have a brief argument before La Befana leaves with the Easter Bunny in the hopes to change him back. This couldn't happen at a worse time with Easter right around the corner. After Cal and Sandra reconcile, she suggests that they borrow Santa's sleigh so he can visit Riley for her birthday. Sandra flies while Cal uses his gift to see where they are and where they need to go. Could they combine here, Chris?
Yes.
After Cal and Sandra reconcile, she suggests that they borrow Santa... Oh, I already said that. Cal does surprise Riley, but her birthday was 2 days ago. He had completely forgotten due to all his training. Riley opens up about how the relationship is terrible as she never gets to see him and breaks up with
I
him.
just bring up one thing about that scene. The main argument for him forgetting time's different at the North Pole.
Right.
So it would be easy for him to
All right. Hey,
miss.
remember how you were gone for only a couple of days here, but the North Pole? Well, no, it'd be the other way around. How you were only gone a couple of days at the North Pole, and back in reality, back at home, you were gone for weeks. Let's bring that back up here, Cal.
Yeah.
But what do we know? It was
Cal's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
That's true as well. Magnus Attis can't seem to regain his powers, thus halting his plans of revenge. After a brief moment with the hot cocoa stand attendee, he realizes he'll need North Pole magic to bring his magic back. I love this little North Pole world. Again, the Mad Santa part and Chris part is probably my favorite of this season so far. Like, their chemistry is really well done, and their story is good and very believable. Let's see. Considering if Easter is fast approaching, Olga kidnaps the Easter Bunny. The dastardly duo orders the Easter Bunny to take them to the North Pole. Of course, the new Easter Bunny, played by one Tracy Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Really good to see him back in acting still, by the way. Even though the Easter Bunny was once Magnus' Attis friend, he refuses to betray the current Santa. As punishment, they force feed him yellow peeps, which, let's be honest, is a marshmallow covered in sugar. They are delicious. The funniest thing. He said, those were never meant to be eaten. They were decoration. No, they were packing. They're used for packing.
Yeah.
Dude, it was so good.
And then when he, after he's had who knows how many of the things, and he's sitting there and he lays an egg.
Yep. A sleep egg or whatever it was. No, a disappearing egg. It transported him. What Magnus Attis and Olga didn't expect was that upon eating dozens and dozens of peeps, made the Easter Bunny poop a weaponized egg that releases a gas so he can escape. His escape leads to the arrival of the North Pole, where he's transformed to the bunny, but luck may still be on Mad Santa's side when he and Olga smell reindeer and follow the scent. This is where Cal and Sandra land at Riley's house, feeling devastated over the breakup. Cal blames his father and angrily removes his Santa and training vest. The vest flies off the sleigh when they leave, landing right where Magnus Attis and Olga are waiting. Upon wearing the vest, Mad Santa is now able to use his magic once more. Good.
See, Cal's just causing so many problems.
Yeah. Sandra is causing problems, but Cal is really screwing up here. But Chris, we can't say that because it's the elves' fault. If they just would have been honest and said all this other stuff, we could have already handled this situation months ago. But no, we want to keep our secrets from a Mad Santa, which Santa Claus is never going to become a Mad Santa. So I really don't understand that. Unfortunately, we're going to episode 4, Miracle on Dead Creek Road. Unfortunately for Santa, there's some funny Nightmare on Elm Street jokes here.
Yeah,
I was not expecting that, and it cracked me up. Unfortunately for Santa and his family, the Easter Bunny remains an actual bunny, which means his family, the North Pole, will be doing Easter this year. Although this sounds disastrous, especially for Noel, who's struggling to keep his stress levels down, Magnus Attis' power, aka Santa magic, is now showing up on the radar. The elves continue to hide who Magnus Attis is and that he's returned. However, Santa seems to be randomly seeing the Mad Santa in visions that only he can see and hear. As Cal tries to recover from his heartbreak, he and Santa begin training to be the temporary Easter Bunny when the Sandman shows up. He and the holiday legendary figures want to see how Cal's Santa training is going. To avoid more trouble, they're able to get him to fall asleep for the time being. Mrs. Claus and Sandra are tasked with finding the Easter Bunny's basket and trick eggs and find his home in disarray. However, neither of them realizes his home looks destroyed because it was previously kidnapped by Olga. Which that makes sense of why it was a mess. I've completely skipped over that somehow. As they search for the basket of tricks, Sandra expresses her frustrations for causing the mess due to her inability to control her powers. Mrs. Claus offers some motherly advice, which leads them to the wrecking more of the Easter Bunny's house. Which, listen, that's just called breaking and entering and breaking everything else. All right, this they need to be tried, and this is
vandalism.
A crime, right? Let's see. The ads are jumping me all over the place here.
Don't you love it?
Yeah, All the same, this works and the two find the basket. Thankfully for Santa, when the Sandman does awaken, he's easily tricked into believing Cal was able to fly the sleigh without issue. They wake him up. What did he say? He said, no Freddy Krueger or something like that. It's just...
He said, Leave me alone, Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, it's just
Something.
didn't know that was exist in the same universe. Still funny.
I wonder what that battle would look like. I mean, you have the Sandman who's responsible for putting people to sleep, and then you have Freddy who's a dream demon.
That's a good question.
Uh,
We need Disney on this, actually. With that issue out of the way, Cal and Santa, who can now transform into Scott Calvin, thanks to an elf-made device, start their Easter mission. While all of this is going on, Magnus Antis now has his magic back, impressing Chris. He decides to give Chris's Santa a theme park and magical makeover in the hopes of attracting the current reigning Santa. In the process, Chris feels a little left out as all he wanted to do was bring joy to the crowds and guests as Santa. It seems for the first time that as much as Chris likes Magnus and Ulta, he started to see the cracks in the magic. Now that he's ready, Mad Santa wants to set a trap for Santa where he last sensed Santa's magic near Cal's now ex-girlfriend Riley's house, which is, in the backyard, essentially. Which, right. I like that. It made sense. Let's see. As Cal and Santa go house to house using specially made hats to appear invisible, the elves and Mrs. Claus track their progress. Although Cal has a slight hiccup by mixing up the Easter eggs, thus making the evening extra long and tiresome, they arrive at Riley's house. Even in the midst of their Easter mission, Santa wants to help his son and suggests he tries talking to her. It is here that all the alarms go off at the North Pole, signaling that the two types of Santa magic are dangerously close to each other. In a panic, the elves finally confess to Mrs. Claus what has been going on with Magnus Antis. As Cal and Santa arrive, they immediately fall victim to two harmless Christmas-themed trap. Thankfully, Mrs. Claus arrives to free them. But then Magnus arrives, able to see Santa even with the invisibility hat. Upon meeting, Santa realizes that Magnus is a Santa he has been seeing and hearing in his visions. As Santa and his family flee, Magnus gets one good throw of magical and harmful snowball. Santa gets hit, but he and the family still manage to flee in raging mad Santa. Good cliffhanger.
Yeah. I mean, Cal leaving stink eggs at people's...
Yeah, instead of the normal Easter eggs.
Stop. He shouldn't be allowed out of his room.
No. But I agree with that. Now...
I mean...
Yeah. I'm excited the show's back, though.
Yeah, very
Cal,
much.
I feel like they made more campy, though, than he was in the previous season. Like last season, he was more like aloof and not really unaware, but they went to Earth proper. And I don't know. This is just a little weird. I really don't like the elves storyline thing. That's really getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
But it looks like now that all secrets are laid bare for the most part. We still know how he turned them into it, but how it got turned into a nutcracker, but we'll see. But Chris, before we move on to the news, it is time for a finale. Another one, if you will. Our Heroes in Douche Canoe finale of 2023. As most of you know, we do a Hero in Douche Canoe of the week. We're just going to stick to Invincible because there's not really much to go on with the Santa Clauses for this with our shows. So, hero count. I would like to say Adam, Eve, and or Mark for this one. The only ones I can think of, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
It's a toughie. It's tough when we only have one show.
I'd probably lean Mark because people still died with Adam Eve. I mean, they did with Mark, but it wasn't something he
directly affected.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm down for that. Oh, Mark. We're going to have a tie for Hero and Douche Canoe here. And which brings our total to hero count. Mobius 1, Derek 1, Emma 1, Timely 1, Marie 1, and Mark 1. So,
how many of those will we never see again?
That's Mobius and Timely we'll never see again. Derek we will never see again. Marie and Emma we will see again. That's coming up in the news. Future spoilers. And then Douche count and Douche Canoe. Nolan, the Viltrumites, but we'd have to pick just one. out of those? Cecil.
I would probably. Hmm. That's it. It's a little bit tougher because I wouldn't put Cecil there because
He really didn't
I
do
don't.
much.
Right.
Yeah. And we really don't know if he's an android or if he's a clone or what the whole thing is there.
Right.
Um,
So that leaves Nolan and the Viltrumites. Oh, I mean, I feel like Nolan. I'd probably go Nolan just
Yeah.
because he could have gone back to Earth. He could have.
could have done everything different, but here we are. And
Yeah.
just,
He just made things 10 times worse.
yeah.
I mean, he kind of put this planet on the Viltrumite radar.
Yep, he was the reason for that.
Yeah.
So,
And then he abandoned his post on Earth. He could have stayed there and fought and had other heroes that could have helped him.
but here we are. So our douche count official for the 2023 Marie, General Docs, Rufus, Kate, Allison, and Nolan. Weird seeing Marie on both lists, though. She's our morally gray character of our show.
Before we get into news, I want to ask you about the Santa Clauses. What do you think we're going to see happen with Betty? Because we've only gotten the one glimpse.
Yeah, of her in Times Square.
Yeah. She's got to affect the Mad Santa storyline somehow because she's on Earth.
And I hate the Bernard cover-up conspiracy we've got going here. Because the whole time she's head elf, head elf, head elf. Bernard was the first head elf that we were ever introduced to. Why are we acting like she's been the head elf the whole time? Enough of the conspiracy. I don't know what's going to happen to her, though.
And who was the head elf under Mad Santa? It was Toots.
Toots, yeah.
I don't want to know how he got that name.
No, that's probably exactly how you think, though, Chris. Oh, man. Notable news. I'll do this one first. Gen V has been renewed for a season 2. Who didn't see that coming, though? So we will continue to be talking about that and recapping and reviewing it whenever they do come out, which I imagine potentially the end of next year. No. It'll probably be early 2025.
I bet Rufus saw it coming.
Hey. And then the big one here, though, I don't even think we've even mentioned on the show yet. Superman and Lois has been officially canceled after 4 seasons. The 10-episode final season will air in 2024, bringing forth the end of the CW Arrowverse DC shows.
Yep, that's it. It's over.
Which is nuts to think about. That's been decades-long TV shows.
What's nuts to think about is that was the top to bottom. That was the better DC programming.
Yep, and everybody agrees with that.
And they just wiped it away.
Yeah, and that's even like, because we talked about earlier, which, this is before October, the writers being cut and all the cast that's been cut that aren't regulars anymore. And I think we even talked about this is probably going to be the last season, and now it's officially official. It is the last season. But we get 10 episodes, and they get to end on their own time. Kind of. Because they cut writers and a lot of your lead actors out. So I'm like, that's not really ending how we'd want it to end.
They did say the actors that were cut could come back.
They're just not going to have the paycheck as regulars.
Right.
So.
Right.
But that's pretty much it for the past 2 months that we've missed for our TV news. Movie news, obviously bigger. But yes, it is sad. Well, the whole strike was going on, though. So
yeah.
Which is still crazy to me. Because we won't feel the effect of that until, I think, the beginning of next year, end of next year. because nothing's been being filmed, edited on, talked about, worked on, that kind of stuff. Like Deadpool, they just now restarted filming it, like a couple days ago, Friday, I think.
Yeah. I think with that, they're mostly done.
Yeah, probably doing reshoots and stuff like that.
Filming for the trailer, stuff that won't even be in the movie.
And no releases this week on TV. Good.
All right. All right. So, have you watched anything else movie-wise, or
No, I've been wanting to watch some Christmas movies, but hadn't watched anything.
So, I only watched one this week. All the other stuff I've had going. I watched The Omen 4, The Awakening. It's officially, because it mentions characters from the first three. So it's part of that franchise. It was made for TV. It aired on the Fox network back in '91.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they had hoped to do a series of movies, made for TV movies, to continue the story. Yeah, this is not a very good movie.
So not that good. Is this your first time watching it, or?
It's the first time I've seen this one. Yeah, and it's, unless I rewatch it for some specific reason, it's going to be the last. It's just not. Yeah, I gave it on Letterboxd. I gave it 1.5 stars. It's just not that. It's not that good. It's a TV movie in the '90s, so it wasn't allowed to do. It wasn't allowed to do some things that they had typically done in the franchise.
Ew.
Like, you couldn't show some of the gore that came with some of the kills. So there's a couple of the kills they cut away. So, like, you see what's about to happen, and then they cut to someone's reaction. And
no.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
And it's no longer Damien in this movie, because in 3 he's an adult. So the new Antichrist is a girl who has been adopted by someone, again, with political aspirations.
So we're doing all this again.
Yeah.
Kind of reset it a little bit.
It's very much, in a lot of ways, a rehash of the very first Omen movie, only with the gender change to the Antichrist and a lot less interesting plot points. So, yeah. But I watched it. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
All right, so we have our horror movie rankings. We're going to get into these. So we'll go ahead and announce next week. Violent Night. Tyler found this one. David Harbour. It's on Amazon.
Yes.
I think you said. So a Christmas thriller / horror film.
Which, right up our alley.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'll give it a shot. All right, horror rankings. Now, I did mine. I just went back and looked at how many stars I gave them on Letterboxd.
Oh, okay.
And I put them in tiers, and then I ranked them within those. So we had 16.
I did not know it was that much until I made this list.
So I guess we'll alternate. You go, and then I'll go. We'll just...
You want to go from the bottom up?
Yeah, let's do bottom up.
I like it. You or me first?
You first.
The first one. At number 16, Vampires. Not the biggest fan of that one. I think that was just not the best one out of all these.
Okay. So my number 16 was also John Carpenter's.
Yeah.
I gave it 3 stars. It's definitely something I would rewatch. It's not...
Right. It's not the worst, but as it comes to this list,
yeah.
Let's see.
It's not the Omen 4.
Yeah, I gave this one 2. So
you were a lot lower on it than I was, but
number 15, The Blair Witch Project, coming at 2.5 stars on my list. So
really, see, I don't remember what ratings you gave these. So
Nice little refresher.
My number 15, which was also a 3-star, Dark Shadows.
Oh, okay.
Only because I feel like I get why they did the ending that they did, but they never intended to give us a sequel.
Which was very not nice of them.
Right.
I agree with
and some of the humor, you could tell it was supposed to be funny. I didn't laugh at it. So for me, it just didn't hit. It was still a really good movie, though.
Yeah. Number 14 for one, Mr. Haynes. Babadook. Which just lets you know everything else on this list. I give this one a 2. Not really. I don't know, it's just a weird movie for me. I liked it, but again, not saying this is a bad movie, but just not out of this list. This is just where it fell for me on this.
Yeah.
So
this is the start of my 3.5-star part of my list. And my number 14 is one I'd seen before. Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, okay.
Came in. And again, that's less an indication of what I think of the movie than the other movies we watched.
Yeah, that's where I am on this list, because once I hit 10 up, it was very, very hard for me to decipher. Like, and I am going to preface this: my top 4 to 5. I'll say my top 5. Any one of them could have been number 1. It was just
depends on the day.
Yeah, it's just very hard to decipher those, but we'll talk about that here when we get there. My number 13. I want to make sure I pull up I'm keeping my list here too on my phone. I've got it up on the computer in here because I want to keep the rankings. Rosemary's Baby. Coming out with 2 stars for me. So I liked it. Just the really exciting stuff that only happened to like the last half of the movie. I felt it was a little too long, but still not bad. Especially being kind of like a hit horror movie. Like a classic, rather.
Right. It's one of those that now you can say you've seen it.
Yep. And understand all these references to stuff. So,
number 13 for me, The Babadook.
Ah, okay. So not too far away from mine.
Not too far. It was, as you get into the film, and it's an older film, so we can touch on a couple things. You find out it's about grief and depression.
Yep.
And you kind of feel that throughout the movie. It's not a movie that you have fun watching.
That's a valid point.
It's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
Which it does its job, so that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. But it's just, for me, not one that I would voluntarily go back and watch a lot.
Yeah. Number 12, Shaun of the Dead. Right there, what you said earlier. It's a great movie. Just a lot of high caliber movies here. I gave this one a 3.5 when we went through here. So we're starting to hit those 3s and 3.5s for me here.
My number 12 was one that is a new release. I gave it 3.5 stars, The Haunted Mansion.
Oh, okay.
I thought it did well. I liked it better than the Eddie Murphy version from a few years back. It was a good cast. Some of the comedy hit well. I'm very picky with comedy in a movie. But this did it. It did it well. Like I said, 3.5 stars. It's not
more screaming goats.
Bad rating. No, I needed not at all. Not at all.
Oh.
I needed some Flarkins is what I needed.
Right, that's what you needed. Number 11, Dark Shadows. It's not going to make my top 10. It's a good movie, funny movie. I like the parts that a lot of parts hit for me, and a lot of parts didn't hit. But it's the same thing with you. Like, you set up for a sequel and not do a sequel or even plan to do one. Like, even when you're writing it, it's just not. I gave this one 3.5 stars. That's just not how that works for me.
Right.
So,
my number 11. I gave this 3.5 as well. Final Destination.
Okay. Starting to see what
Just
makes your top 10 here.
yeah. I just it's not the best in the franchise to me.
Right.
I like 3 the most. It's right there behind it, but it doesn't have a lot of gore,
Right.
and it doesn't have the thing we get with it that we don't get in a couple of the other installments is they do spend a lot of time with the characters. We get to know them. You get to care about them. But to be a horror movie, it really did feel like they didn't know how far they could go with the kills, which they make up for in 2 and in 3.
Yeah. Kept pushing that line.
Yeah, but in 1, it was just like nothing outstanding. Still a good movie. Kicked off a nice franchise, but
Here we go.
top 10.
Top 10. Again, any of these could have gone, well, the bottom 5 could have gone anywhere. Number 10, It Part 2. Great. I mean, a good franchise. I just don't. They put too much comedy into that one. But.
Yeah, I can see that.
So. But, oh, what did I give this? My phone keeps shutting off. Probably should have written these down. It Part 2, I gave a 2.5. So, went back on scores there. But I felt like it was, a better movie, or more of a movie than the other 6 that we've talked about so far, or that I've ranked so far. But that's my number 10.
The first one in my top 10, I also gave 3.5 to. Did a lot of 3.5s. I
Right
like
down the
that was my default score. Scream 6.
Okay.
And based on news that we've gotten recently,
Yes.
the 7th one probably will not rate this high.
It's not going to. God, that.
But yes, Scream. I thought it was good. They had the nice little swerve with having 3 killers.
Yes.
Which no Scream film has done before. There's usually 2. And they've had, I think it was it Scream 3, Scream 2, that had 1 killer. But yeah, our 2 stars are not coming back.
Which is, I was going to put that on the list for this week, but I'll probably do it more so next week. We'll dive into it.
Yeah.
Just because that's nuts, man. That is just bonkers. I wanted to give that enough time to kind of marinate, and we could talk about it, because I'm sure there's going to be more stuff that comes out this week about it.
One was a studio or production company decision. And the other, I think, was based off that, although another reason was given.
Yeah, which is, I don't believe that was the reason. No. So, number 9 might surprise you. The one that scared me endless this year. Hereditary. Now, I put it in top 10 because it's a great horror movie. I will never watch it again, though. I just won't. I am still scarred by her sitting up in the corner. Like, I'm still scarred. I give it 3.5 stars, though, on my list. Horrifying.
Tyler, what's that in the corner of your room?
No corner shut, so can't tell.
My number 9, it's the last of my 3.5 stars. One that I liked a lot, one that we're getting a sequel to, Black Phone.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was the best of the 3.5 star movies for me. There wasn't a lot of negatives to it. Felt like we had a couple points where it slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, let's move this forward. I want more development of the story, And I think it's great when they leave endings open, so you can kind of make up your own mind about what happened. But I wanted a little more background to our our antagonist.
Which we might get.
We
in
might
the next
get.
one. They didn't really, give us any details on it, but
And if not, I could see him doing a prequel for a third.
I would be. Oh, that'd be really good too. A prequel.
Yeah.
Number 8 for me. Final Destination, 3.5 stars. I like this one, but
Yeah.
again, none of these are bad. I have to say one last time, none of these are bad. It's just where any day of the week could flip or flop. But Final Destination, I enjoyed watching that one, and a lot of these, I think from here on out, I'll probably watch again at some point in my life.
Yeah.
So, well, maybe not one of them, but we'll see.
My number 8 starts my 4-star list. It Chapter 2.
Oh, okay.
I felt like it was still really good to me, but like you said, it had some comedy moments that I didn't care for. I didn't care for Pennywise's head on the big spider. I was like, why don't we do something different with that?
No.
And then he kind of deflates at the end, and it's, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah, maybe do something different with that. But I did like the fact that the adults are having to come back together. They don't remember everything initially, and they're having to
replace
figure
their
it out.
memories and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, not replace, but refigure out. Number 7, Haunted Mansion. I think that it's a good movie. Again, I'm right there with you. Better than the original one with Eddie Murphy. I did like that one better. Oh, this one better. Still a little kind of jump scary for me. But this is the one that I could see myself watching in, but probably not. Unless they do like a sequel or something to redo it. But that's kind of cool. So
I could see this becoming one of your regular Halloween movies if Stella takes to it and wants to watch it every year. Yeah.
Because it's a little scary, but not too horrifying.
There's enough comedy and goofiness in there that a kid can laugh about it.
It's got Danny DeVito. I mean,
there you go.
The goat.
All kids love Danny DeVito.
Right. Unless it's the penguin. It's very gross and creepy kind of looking. So,
My number 7, 4 stars. Hereditary.
Oh, okay. So just 2 spots away. I'm wondering if any of ours are going to link up, if the same numbers and stuff for.
We've only had it happen once, right? So
we haven't had it happen at all yet. Oh, vampires. Yeah, 16.
Yeah.
Number 6, Chris. The Exorcist. Now, again, the top 5 can be any order any given Sunday, and The Exorcist is right there with them. But my top 5, I would watch more than I'll watch The Exorcist. Because I feel like The Exorcist, I've kind of seen, I get it, I know what's going on. I remember everything that goes with it, I'm ready. But the top 5, I can watch it multiple times. So, what did I give? I gave The Exorcist, if my phone would stop going to sleep, I gave The Exorcist 3.5. So, the Chris Rivers score.
There you go. Number 6 for me, 4 stars. The Omen.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to find a weak point in the movie. Again, I feel like the only thing is, a product of its time. It's in the 70s. They spend a little bit of time on some stuff that I feel like they could have tightened it up a little bit, made the runtime a little bit shorter. I think unless you've seen the movie multiple times, the opening is a little confusing. Where they open in Iraq?
Oh yeah.
Or, I get why they're doing it. They're setting up the story, but if you're,
it's
still down for the first time to watch it, it's like, what are we? How does this? What?
Yeah, that relates to nothing in Italy and everything else. So
right. So, but great cast. The kid was well cast.
Yes,
he looked very creepy.
The nanny. or the little
nanny.
acolyte, whatever you want to call her. She was
Yeah.
great. I'm sure you want to say number 5, The Omen. So this is, again,
Okay.
all 5 of these can be interchanged. Just depends on what day of the week it is. I'm thinking about it. But The Omen, again, I loved it. Like, this was one of those I was pleasantly surprised when we watched it of how much I enjoyed this movie. This is one that if I found in a steelbook, or any of these 5, if I found it like in a steelbook, I'm going to grab it if I can. I give this 4.5 stars on our scale. So
Awesome. My number 5 is a 4.5 star. We're starting that little tier for me. The Blair Witch Project.
oh,
Um,
that's a much
I-
big jump between both of us. 10 spot jump.
and I think that's probably because because this came out 98, so I was in college, and so I remember the marketing campaign. It was the first time anyone had used the internet and done like a viral marketing campaign for a movie. Same thing with the documentary they ran on Sci-Fi. Like, no one had done that yet.
Yeah.
And so I think that got it a little bit more onto the list, where it's like, this was a groundbreaking film. It brought back the found footage genre. And it was the first one to really utilize the web to market itself as not a film, and make that whole thing part of its mystique.
Number 4, Scream 6. I give this 4.5 stars. I really like this one. Now, again, I have not seen 2, 3, or 4, but only seeing 1, 5, and 6. I kind of like this one because it brought everything together throughout all the films. For the most part, the one main chick wasn't in it, but Courtney Cox, love her. God, love her.
Yeah.
And I just really liked Scream 6.
Yeah, they were missing Nev Campbell.
Yes.
But they brought back Hayden Panettiere,
Mhm.
brought back Courtney Cox. So, yeah, I can see why it's that high. Number 4 for me, 4.5 stars. It,
Oh.
Chapter 1.
Okay.
This was certainly the better of the two halves of the two
Yeah.
chapters.
Completely agree.
It was almost a perfect film
Mm.
in my eyes. Close, not quite.
All right. Number 3, It Part 1. I agree. I give this 4.5 stars as well. Really, really enjoyed this one. Like, this was because we started off. This is our second week of viewing of shows or movies, and this was a very fun one to start off on. I could see the allure. Bill Skarsgård, phenomenal Pennywise, and I'm right there with you. The better half of the two. So
Yeah.
a lot of gore, a lot of fun, a lot of horror in there too with the well, and just a lot of fun show of a movie.
Number 3, 4.5 stars. A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Damn it. Okay, because we're not going to link up on anything else then. So.
I love it. I wanted to go 5 stars, but I do think that there's just a couple of things that keep it from that. A lot of the birth of an iconic character.
Which I do
You
want to
have-
explore more of.
You have the great setup that allows him to do 2 different kills. In the film, you've got they use the same rotating set to do the first kill
Mm-hmm.
that we see. Where, what is her name? Tina, where she's dragged across the ceiling.
Yes.
And everything. And then they use that same set to create the Glenn's death, Johnny Depp's character, where he's sucked into the bed and blood spews up
That
all
was
over the
awesome.
ceiling
Just
into the room.
erupts out of the bed. Awesome.
Like, pretty sure that wasn't all in his body, but
Right.
okay.
You know, we don't hold that much blood. Number 2 for me was Nightmare on Elm Street. Loved it. I mean, all the same reasons you did. Like this, especially The Omen, like are very interchangeable on this list because they're classics, and I really did not know how much I would enjoy these, and I'm glad they made the horror wheel of death pick on here. So I give it 4.5 stars as well.
So my top 2 have 5-star ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2 on my list is Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah. Which I was real low on that one compared to you.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with when I watched it for the first time and kind of growing up with that being one of the iconic horror films, and some of the stuff that gives it a certain mystique about, because it was filmed in the Dakota,
right,
in New York. That's where John Lennon was living when he was killed. He was killed, shot on the sidewalk outside the building, and stumbled into one of the entryways where he would then be rushed to the hospital. There are a lot of other strange things that have happened in that building. Some people say it's because of the movie and the subject matter. Other people say it's something else.
Just coincidence. Let's just say what it is. It's just a coincidence.
But I gave it 5. It's barely there for me though. It's weird. It's kind of teetering. I could probably watch it again and go, no, I'm dropping it to 4.5.
Right.
But
oof, I didn't realize it had this low of a score. Number 1, Black Phone. I gave it 3.5 stars on viewing, but again, the top 5 very interchangeable. I really did enjoy this though. Ethan Hawke was a phenomenal villain, bad guy, whatever you want to call him. It wasn't a lot. This is the first movie that we watched in our list, but the one random horror bit where the kid was upside down, floating, it kind of jump scared us a little bit, got me, and it got me. And the very concept of them being psychic kind of stuff, the way the brother and sister was really cool, and the mom and everything. So I thought that was really well done. I really enjoyed the story of this,
right.
And it could kind of happen kind of thing. And it's just very, having the cool kid, teaching them how to fight, back up, swing, duck, and stuff like that. Oh, it was just so good and just very, very kind of cool. So.
My number 1. The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those that, like you were saying about, which one was it we were talking? The Omen, I think, where you talked about knowing a lot of the references now.
Yeah.
The Exorcist is one of those too. I think it was right after you had watched it, and we were talking about it, and you were like, I understand so many references that I remember from these other shows and movies now that I've seen that. It's had a lot of influence, and I think it was a little bit ahead of its time. What's cool about it is that's all practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
Because
you can't do CGI back then.
So her makeup, the head spinning around, the pea soup is what they used, but the puke projectile vomiting out of her onto people. And
what did the demon say? Your mother's a whore, or something like that. So good.
Which I don't think you saw this. I texted it to you and Jamie. But I watched the director's cut, and they have the spider walk down the stairs.
And I've seen that, and that's popped up. I forget what else it popped up. I meant to send that to you back in October. But that scene popped up in something else I was watching, on TikTok or something, like classic horror or stuff like that. And that was the first thing I said, nope, and scroll through. Nope, not doing that one. So
yeah. I need to go back and see what ratings I've given to other stuff and kind of work them into this list. I'd like to have a master list
of Chris Rivers horror watch-a-thon.
Yeah, just everything we've watched.
Yeah. Well, luckily this year I started actually keeping count.
Yeah.
So We'll
When we
have it
get
for
to
years to
year
come.
end, we'll have to review it when we get to year's end.
See what our favorite movie of the year was. Well, they'll have to work too because of our movie of the year, anyways. So
Yeah. Yep. Cool. So those were our horror movie rankings. Again, next week we're going to do Violent Night, starring David Harbour. And on to the news. So let's see. I got to pull the link up. It's been a while since I've had to do this. We haven't done
had the news in a long bit.
Screen Rant by Kai Young gets the byline on this. Every actor cast in Superman Legacy so far.
Which was just updated a couple days ago.
No.
So we don't have to go through like all the paragraphs and everything. We could just talk about the actors because they've actually cast a lot that I didn't even know about.
Okay, is there a there's a list here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
You just got to get far enough past the ads and stuff.
And the fluff.
So there's 10 of them. Number 10, kind of a big one. David Cornsweet as Clark Kent, aka Superman. Looks wise, I think he fits. I haven't seen him. I don't know about his height. Don't know about his height. I'm sure they'll make sure he's got the physique for it.
Right. They'll buff him up.
But like facially, he looks like a Clark Kent.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot to say. I'm not that familiar with his other performances. So
some of these people I know, and I put that in quotes, but
you know of.
Yeah, know of.
It says he has been in Hollywood, The Politician, House of Cards, Pearl, and Affairs of State. I need to watch Pearl. I haven't watched that yet. So, number 9, someone we are a little bit more familiar with, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane.
Yes, I think that's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I do too. Of course, her big vehicle that she's been in recently is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yep.
I like that casting. I don't take a lot of issue with that. Seems pretty good. Number 8, Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen.
Which this is the one that was just released a couple days ago, and I think is a perfect casting for this one because he looks like a kind of like a nerdy Jimmy Olsen kind of thing.
He's been in Santa Clarita Diet and The Righteous Gemstones,
which I've been told I need to watch that.
Yeah.
So
I've been told the same thing. I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, that's what I say.
So I don't really have an opinion there. Nicholas Hoult is Lex Luthor.
This is a kind of thing here. Because like I don't know. I haven't seen him. Oh yeah, we have seen him. And something Beast. So I'm curious to see. It just depends what kind of Lex Luthor they go with here. Like, do they go the nerdy scientist turned supervillain, or do they go the very political, the very critical thinking kind of guy? So I mean, it's just depends what they go with him here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm with you. Depends on how they're gonna swing it. Sarah Sampaio is Eve Eschmacher.
I'm down. They really don't have her in anything on here.
They don't mention anything in particular. She says she's excited about the upcoming role. They've got a picture of her from something else, but
yeah, I don't know what that's from.
I'm like, all right. Maria Gabriela de Faria as Angela Spica, aka the engineer.
I don't know anything about that character.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with it, and I'm not familiar with her, so
Mm-mm.
I can't really say. It looks like her character may have some CGI involved,
Yeah.
so we'll see. Um, some of her other work listed is Deadly Class, The Exorcism of God, and The Moodies. Here's someone I'm familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, aka Green Lantern. I think this is good casting. It's really good casting.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a
Um,
perfect one for him.
and he and Gunn have worked together before, so this
Yeah.
was one that was like, I'm sure James Gunn didn't have to think twice about
Mm-mm.
casting Nathan Fillion. He's been in Castle and currently on The Rookie on ABC. I think he's obviously been in Slither, Saving Private Ryan. They mentioned Night Hunter, uh, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, Isabella Merced as Hawk Girl.
What is up with the DC and love of Haunt Girl?
I don't know. Don't know. Now, just trying to look here.
It's Dora the Explorer.
That's what the picture that they have. Yeah, Dora and the Lost City of Gold.
Yeah. So.
All right then.
Oh man.
Cool. Number 2 is I'm hopefully not going to mess up the name here. Eddie Gathegi as Michael Holt, aka Mr. Terrific. What has he been in? Oh yeah,
X-Men.
yep. House and the Blacklist.
Mm-hmm.
Also X-Men First Class. Yeah.
Twilight.
The Twilight series.
Yeah, that's what I know him from.
And then our final casting of a major character. Here's a guy we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Kerrigan as Rex Mason, aka Metamorpho.
Love it. I'm so glad he's more in more stuff. I really like him as an actor.
Yeah.
All that,
Yeah.
and he's not. He's been in a lot of DC stuff too. So.
Yeah. We loved him in Gotham.
God, man, what a show!
Victor Zsasz.
I need to go back and rewatch all that.
So that's our cast list there. I think there's a lot of wait and see,
Yes.
but I think you have enough knowns like Nathan Fillion.
And a lot of good, like, I don't want to say like A-list actors, but like B, C-list actors.
People that you're like, yeah, I've seen them in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Nothing like in a major role, kind of, sort of, but I've seen them in things.
Right. Next up, Deadline by Justin Kroll. Pedro Pascal eyed to play Reed Richards in Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four. I'll run down through this real quick. It says, after months of speculation over who might play Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, in Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four, the wait may be finally over. While a deal is far from done, sources tell Deadline 3-time Emmy nominee Pedro Pascal is in talks to play the leader of the iconic superhero team. Insiders add scheduling is still being worked out, but multiple sources close to the negotiations are saying it's headed in the right direction for Pascal to do this and his other future projects. Pascal has a full dance card that includes Gladiator 2, which is expected to go into production before the end of the year, as well as his popular HBO series The Last of Us, which is expected to shoot next year, as well as Zach Krager's Weapons. Marvel had no comment. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, I think from an acting standpoint, this is beyond solid.
Correct.
A lot of people are worried about the age.
It depends what story they go with, though.
So I've heard rumors that they are also planning to cast Franklin and what was their daughter? Started with a V. I can't think of it right now. But they're planning to cast Reed and Sue's children, which means it's later on.
Yeah, later on in life.
I hate this.
Yeah.
This is what I have a problem with James Gunn's Brave and the Bold, because we're starting with Damian Wayne.
Yes.
We're not going to get
the origins.
They're not going to tell a linear story involving Dick Grayson becoming Robin and us getting attached to him, which makes it more impactful when he leaves and becomes Nightwing. And we're not going to get any of that. They're probably going to mention it and expect everybody to be all in. I'm probably not going to be all in on the Brave and the Bold when it comes out.
Batman's not my main hero anyways, for me.
Well, and it's not the story I want him to tell.
Yeah.
I want go back and start back there and work our way up. And if you do it right, we'll be along for the ride.
Yeah. But I'm curious about this one. And again, this is still not like confirmed, but it's pretty much confirmed. But as much as with anything with the Fantastic Four, I'm taking everything with a kind of a grain of salt until I see official Marvel news for this or the trailer.
I'm curious, and even with the trailer, with the multiverse, we don't know.
Correct. What are they trying to throw us through a loop here for?
I'm curious where the Reed Richards part came out. Because when we first talked about the news, my feeling was he'd be a great Victor Von Doom.
Yes.
And I don't know. He could, acting wise, he can do this. It's just, I think a lot of people were hoping for somebody younger who could be with the franchise longer.
That's where Jamie's at. Jamie's not bought in on him. I'm like, well,
And the thing is, if the deal's not finalized and the voices of people not buying in are loud enough, plans could change.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to hurt his feelings too much because he is very busy. And which I want more Last of Us more than I want Fantastic Four stuff. So, to be fair.
True. I don't think there's much more to say about it just because we don't know.
Right.
But next bit of news, well, I'll do the third one last because I'm much happier about that than Now You See Me 3 is moving forward.
Now, we like those movies.
Like those
take
movies.
It easy.
But it's just not like, oh my God.
Not like this next one, huh?
No, because this next one, I'm like, I'm all in. Where? Need it now.
Right.
What are you waiting on? I don't care that there was a strike. We need this movie.
Yeah, just go ahead and get it done.
Enola Holmes 3 is officially in the works.
Let's
now,
go,
I don't
baby.
know what in the works means.
They're starting to write it, I think, is what I saw. So.
I mean, they should have already written it.
Strike. They were on strike.
It's just, they could have written it for themselves.
That's
and then said, oh, look.
Look, this is done. Don't know how that happened. So, you never know.
Cool. Yeah. No releases this week.
It's that time of the year.
I have heard that the nominees are out for like Game of the Year.
Oh, yes.
Are we doing that next week, or are we?
Yeah, let's do that next week because then that'll be the week of the Game Awards. So
okay,
I'm gonna put that reminder in here actually. Game Awards nominees.
That's what we call a tease of the podcasting.
That's how we do it. But ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have some things to talk about next week. We're going to do Violent Night. We're going to do the next episode of Santa Clauses. We're going to do the Game Awards nominees and some of our votes for it and picks for it. And we're also going to talk about Best Buy is going to stop selling their physical media next week. We ran a little over this week. We're at an hour and a half of a show already, which I wasn't really expecting. But we had some great conversations, which I am always all about. So we'll talk about those things next week. But thank you so much for listening and watching. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Nerdwide Podcast. Let us know what your ranking of your Halloween 2023 Horror Fest was. What do you think? Are it pretty similar to Chris's, pretty similar to mine, somewhere in between? Where are yours at? What's your number one? If you'll let us know down in the comments, it'd be greatly appreciated. You can follow the Nerdwide account on social media, all of them. Just Nerdwide, or the first that pops up: Facebook, Threads, Twitter, and Instagram. Always first things pop up there. So make sure you're following us there for any kind of news that we have to put in there. But ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving, because we're back. It's now the Christmas holiday spirit. And as you can see, the Steelers won today. And it's always a good thing to be merry and to be cheerful about. But thank you so much for watching, and we cannot wait to see you next week.
Later, guys.